Hi Ashton, I just want to take a few minutes to give you some feedback regarding your charcoal reduction drawings for Unit 11. And some things that I noticed in the charcoal reduction scale is that first of all, you've got a really nice tone of gray, okay? And we know that that tone of the paper is going to be this middle gray right here, which is great. But then you need to lightly pick up a little bit more of that toned paper here so that this is a gradual transition from very light and it's going darker, okay? So this looks too much like this value, so just take your kneaded eraser and kind of pop that up a little bit. And then as we go to the right to go darker, these transition very nicely as well as this. But this is almost too dark when I compare it to the middle tone of the paper. So again, using your kneaded eraser would help create that sense of gradation from light to dark with 8 very unique values, gradually transitioning as they move to the neighboring values. For the single bag drawing, before I jump into that, look at you have really 4 values here out of 8 because a couple of them look very similar, but really there should be 8 values here. And if I look at those 8 values in the scale, and if I jump to your drawing, the one thing that you want to integrate with these drawings is you want to integrate all 8 values. Okay, so it looks like here you've got a nice gray tone of your paper, but it looks like you only have 2 values included. So it looks like you added charcoal to get those values, but you also want to use your erasers to get the lighter values. And if I go to your still life here, you have a really nice light area right here where the light is hitting. That should be erased out in the drawing for that lighter value. Okay, so if I go back to your drawing here, another thing that I see is there really a middle gray value? So this appears quite dark. This appears quite dark when it should be light. It should be erased out. So let's go look at the single bag over here. So this appears quite dark right here, but it transitions into a kind of more of a middle gray over here. So instead of this all being filled in as a darker gray, you would add value or darker value here to suggest the darkness. But then there's all these different transitions in value that happen gradually. I would say that this area right here is probably the middle tone of my paper. Okay, so I don't want to fill this whole shape in. I want to look at this as a separate shape, and this is going to stay the tone of my paper, and then this is going to be a value, and then this is going to be a value. This is a value right here, and I'm starting to think of them directly as shapes. Okay, so what's happening in your drawing here is, one, you're missing the cast shadows, and 2, you're missing the lighter values that are achieved by using your eraser. And by adding the full range of 1 to 8 in the reduction value scale, you should be able to start to see your bag appear more volumetric. So one of the things that I really like about the mass line gestures that you completed is that you have activated more of the space on the page. Granted, you have 2 bags that you are drawing now, but think about how they can break that picture plane. So you've done that really nicely over here, which will help your overall drawing going forward. But you're just using line to describe the volume or the mass of the objects. Do not worry about the different values. So I can see that you're playing with value here. It should all just be a single tone of value, and then use line to describe the edges. So with the multiple bag, I'm sorry I called it 2 bags in the last one, but it looks like you have 3, which is a really nice composition because you're playing with height differences with your still life. So this looks really nice. One of the things that I notice in the drawing here is that there seems to be some confusion about what is light and what is dark. Okay, so if I look at your drawing here, I'm getting the impression that this is this edge right here, this is this edge right here. And this should be the light side, and this should be the dark side. Okay, so it looks like that they've been flip-flopped a little bit here. The darkness exists, if I look at the still life here, the darkness exists inside the bag here, which you've done well right there. It exists inside the Cherry Republic bag right here, but it's missing right here. And it exists along this edge right here, which it actually goes light instead of dark. Okay. And then there is some darkness back here. Okay. So I can see where you want to keep the middle tone of the paper, right? But you also want to make sure that you're going in for the darks and you're going in for the lights. So if this is the middle tone of the paper, I'm going to say that that's probably right here. Then this should all be a little bit lighter, right? Because this right here is the middle. There is more light hitting this. It's lighter in value. So you are going to go in and erase rather than make it darker, okay? So these are things that you want to make sure that you're paying attention to so you don't get confused in the drawing process. Is what is the middle gray? So I'm going to say that maybe you're selecting the middle gray to be this and this right here. That's the tone of your paper, okay? But as I work up this angle right here, it gets darker, okay? So I'm going to add charcoal up here. And wherever it is lighter, I'm going to use the eraser to lighten up the values from that middle tone of paper, okay? It's a unique approach because not only are we drawing with charcoal, but we are also drawing with our erasers. So the more that you practice this, the more it will become more clear to you how you can kind of pick up and you can lay down material to create value.